and we are going to continue with Basil's story. And those of you who uh, haven't been on, this is Basil about a doggy who had, basically, hello, Craig, had kind of a really bad owner that left him out on a chain, and he would escape the yard. And a girl who runs a doggy rescue found him again and convinced the one owner to kind of give him up because he just wasn't getting any care. So while he was in this rescue, this rescue also does a dog like sitting, and and they found he's such a great companion. He calms the other doggies. So and when we last left, he actually dug a hole under the fence and escaped. But they found him, and he's back here. So we are going to continue with chapter 15. Hannah and her husband Colin and their daughter Ivy live on many acres of land about 20 minutes from downtown Nashville. We arrive just as the sun sets. Looking out of the back window of Hannah's minivan, I catch a glimpse of pink light shining through the trees along the edge of their property. The stone driveway is long and lined on each side with beautiful sugar maple trees. The driveway ends at a garage with 3 big doors. Hannah pushes a button on her phone, and up goes the garage door to let us in. Before we are even out of the car, Colin and Ivy quickly walk towards the car, excited to greet us. 5-year-old Ivy jumps up and down in the garage. Yay! Basil's here! Colin greets Hannah with a kiss. Then he comes over to me and lets me sniff his hand. And now remember, this is written in Basil's point of view. Hey there, Basil. Welcome to Casa de la Caldwell. It's not as fancy as Hannah's Haven, but I'm sure you're going to like it here. Handing Colin my leash, Hannah asks, Sweetheart, would you mind putting Basil with Chelsea? And Luca would probably like him, so let's put the 3 of them together. I'll start dinner. Hello, Caden. Colin and Ivy lead me into the house. It's been a long time since I've seen the inside of one. Hannah was right. I did need a change of scenery. I feel better already. I sleep in a crate next to Chelsea. On the other side of me is Ivy's dog, Luca. Hannah has 4 poodles in all. Luca is the only toy poodle. The other 3 are standard poodles, the largest of the breed. Little Luca is the color of champagne. The others are white. Luca is the oldest of the poodles, and he's deaf and blind. They must all feel really safe because none of them seem to mind me being in their home. I can't help but wonder if Hannah's dogs know how good they have it living here. Saturday morning, right after breakfast, Colin announces, I'll be in the garden if anyone is looking for me. It's been days since I pulled weeds, and I want to stay on top of things. How are you, Caden? Good to see you here. Since I'm allowed to roam freely here, I follow Colin to keep him company. On the way to the vegetable crops, we pass a chicken coop with 6 chickens. In the distance, there's a large red barn with 3 horses grazing in the wide open green pasture. Colin meticulously scans the rich brown dirt for weeds. I like watching Colin. He's focused on what he's doing. See this, Basil? I pull the weeds up by the roots so they can't grow back. The warm sun beating down on my coat is comforting. Something draws my attention to the barn, and I get up to explore. Colin notices me waiting and looking back at him for approval. It's like he read my mind when he says, That's okay, Basil, sniff around. There's a lot of interesting scents here, much different than the ones you're used to. I walk past the horses And as I do, a beautiful mare with dark chestnut brown hair looks at me. She nods her head while her thick bushy tail whisks the flies off of her back. I make it to the barn, and just as my nose suspects, there's something living in there. It's a huge gray cat, startled by my appearance. She raises up her back and hisses at me like she thinks she is fierce. Yeah, okay, kitty. No need to be afraid. I get it. I'll leave you alone. I run all the way back to Colin, who is still working on the weeds. In the afternoon, Ivy's friend comes over and they have a pretend tea party out on the screened-in porch. Ivy says to me, "We need to dress you properly for tea." "Hello, Cat B." She wraps a fluffy scarf around my neck. It's purple and frilly, something I'm sure a poodle would wear to a tea party. I love watching Ivy and her friend at play. They make up stories and giggle a lot, happy in their pretend world. It makes me think of Marina, and I'm sad. I wonder what she's doing right at this moment. There's still a big place in my heart for her. Ivy announces, "Welcome to my tea party. Today we're having tea and crumpets." She pours me a pretend cup of tea and says, "Here's a crumpet for you, Basil." Yum. I don't know what a crumpet is, but it sure tastes like a dog biscuit. Chapter 16, and we are now graced with the presence of Marilyn. Hello, Marilyn. How you doing? Marilyn. All right, chapter 16. The next day, the three tall poodles invite me to play a game of chase. The poodles are so athletic, able to leap high in the air. They're also quick on their feet. I have a hard time catching anyone. Still, I love that they accept me and include me in the fun. From the back door, Hannah says, "I'm going to town to pick up some groceries for dinner. Colin, will you keep an eye on things until I get back? I won't be long." "Sure, sweetie, no problem," Colin answers. Hannah asks Ivy, "Do you want to come with Mommy?" Yes, I want to go with Mommy," she chirps while jumping around the kitchen. "Okay, my two favorite girls. See you later," says Colin. He returns to yesterday's weeding. As Hannah investigates the long stretch of driveway back to the road, I'm distracted. I watch and wonder where the road leads. Are there other farms next to this one? Do they have horses and barn cats? What about dogs? I walk while I'm daydreaming, and before I know it, I'm at the end of the driveway. I begin to follow the trail of the scent from Hannah's car. The road is a narrow two-lane highway, one lane for each direction. There aren't many cars on the road, but the ones that pass me whiz by. Their whooshing sound frightens me, and the wind whips against my face. I cautiously walk on the side of the road so I will not get hit. And there's a little picture of Basil walking on the side of the road. My daydreaming ends abruptly when a car horn blares out at me. Uh-oh, where am I? I'm lost. Oh no! I tell myself not to panic. I take a deep breath, and the chill out song that Jolie used to sing to me comes to mind. Hey, you're okay. You'll be fine. Just breathe. I stop walking and start thinking things through. I was traveling the same direction as Hannah, so that means she'll come back this way and will pass me on her way home. I just need to hold still. But wait, what if she doesn't see me? What if it gets dark and I'm still standing here? As I exhale, I remind myself that negative thoughts never did anyone any good. Hey, you're okay. You'll be fine. Just breathe. An old truck stops by the side of the road, and a man in faded overalls gets out. He approaches me with his hand out. He looks like he wants to grab my collar. Hey, fella, I'm not going to hurt you. He moves toward me. I feel scared. I back up. The man keeps coming toward me. Basil! Here, Basil! I imagine I'm hearing Colin's voice. Then I see his big silver truck. He parks on the side of the road and runs to me, carrying a leash in his hand. The stranger takes off hurriedly. Oh my gosh, Basil. You scared me so much. Now, what would I have said to Hannah if you had gotten lost? Or even worse, you could have been hit by a car. Come on, buddy, let's go home. I gladly jump into the front seat of Colin's truck as he drives me back to Casa de la Caldwell. Wow, that was a close one. Later in the evening, the house fills with delicious smells. Hannah cooks a veggie nut loaf. I lay at her feet under the table and eavesdrop on their conversation while the family eats dinner. Colin confesses, I'm really sorry. I wasn't watching Basil more closely this afternoon. I had no idea he would wander off like that. Today could have had such a horrible ending. I'm glad he's safe. He has such a gentle spirit. Hannah responds, I really wish you would have paid more attention while we were gone. I trusted you. I'm so sorry, Hannah. I made a horrible mistake. Hannah reassures him. It could have happened to anyone, but what it tells me is that he's bored. I think he was exploring and didn't realize he left the property. Today I'm going to place an ad for him on Pet Finder. I haven't been proactive enough. It's just been a pleasure of having him around. Basil has a talent for making the new dogs feel comfortable, and I was ignoring his needs. Living like this isn't fair to him. Whoever adopts him better be pretty special themselves. Don't worry. I'll make sure of that. Alright, so we're up to chapter 17. It's Monday morning, and Hannah lets me hang out in her office. She types her thoughts on her computer, then calls Jolie into the office. What's up, Jolie asks. I know you've done a really good job at getting the word out about Basil to our clientele, but since he's been here so long, I decided it's time to place an ad on Pet Finder. We'll see what kind of response we get. What do you think of this? Breed, Labrador Retriever mix, sex male, age adult, size large. Loving dog seats loving forever home. Basil is a handsome 3-year-old black lab mix. We have introduced him to many dogs at daycare. He easily adapts and plays well with all types of dogs. He's everybody's best friend. He's well behaved and is gentle with children. He is very lovable and is happiest around people. He is house trained and crate trained and knows basic commands like sit, stay, down, and come. And he loves to cuddle. Please email Hannah for more information. Visit our Facebook page for more pictures and videos. Gosh, Hannah, I never thought I'd hear you describe Basil as handsome. He is handsome. I think he was just really scared the day you brought him to meet me. His facial muscles were tight or something. After he spent a few days here and relaxed, he was safe. His expressions seemed to relax. Don't worry, someone is going to fall in love with him. Hannah's right about me being handsome. I hope she's right about the falling in love part, too. Alright, chapter 18. We're just sliding along. Oh, look who's out. So, let me interrupt while I get that little popcorn varmint. Alright, you little varmint. I saw you. Where'd you go? Aha. We interrupt this story time for a very special report. Popcorn is out and about. Hi. Everybody was wondering about you. Where were you? You know, you really need to keep better hours. You know that? Hello, Wicket. You still have those big piercing blue eyes. That goes very well with your white fur. You know that? What are you looking at? Look at the camera. Look, there's your friends. And look, you're biting my hands again. You're biting my hands. Huh? You are getting a little bigger. You're still a little small guy, but you're not as small as when we first met you. So, popcorn. Where's your popcorn? Yeah, she's adorable, all right. As you can see, she has a little problem with the nibbling. Yeah, a little nibble, 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 nibble. Hey, Barb, you here? All right, I'm going to put you down. Yeah, Peppy twin, yeah. All right, little. Good. Okay. So let's get back to Basil. After were so rudely interrupted by that little white cat. Before leaving work, Jolie sits down with me. She leans in close and strokes my fur, then softly says, "Hey, buddy, I'm going on vacation and you won't see me for a week, but I promise I'll be back. I hope Hannah finds you forever home, but part of me hopes that doesn't happen until I get back. I hate it if I couldn't meet your new family myself." She gives me a hug, rubs my ears, and kisses the top of my head. "I'm going to miss you a lot, sweet pea. I'll see you in a week. Be good." A week can feel like a long time for a dog, especially when you're separated from a human you love so deeply. Humans have this expression, "I've got your back." I think it means that they're always looking out for you, Jolie. For you. Jolie has been the one person in my life who always looks out for me. I vividly remember another time when I escaped from my yard and I went to visit her. It was 3 a.m. Oh yeah, the same problem. It was 3 a.m. and her dogs were outside the house barking, to let her know I was out there. She came outside to greet me and remembered I was the same dog that Celine and Sam returned. But this time my blue collar had a tag and phone number. Jolie called my owners and let me stay in her house until they came to get me. 20 minutes later, she had to call a second time. Then Trish arrived apologetically and took me with her. From that night on, I escaped repeatedly, and Jolie would find me in her driveway or somewhere on the block. I'm not exactly street smart, and I could easily have been hit by a car. She must have gotten my back at least a dozen times. Hello, Danish. Hey, how come is Danish? Is that Van Gogh? Because you only have one ear. I'm waiting for your response before I continue. No, I was because you only have one ear there. I thought it was Vincent Van Gogh. All right, chapter 19. Tad, one of the overnight sitters, springs through the front door, all excited. "Hannah, I think I found a home for Basil," he exclaims. "My next-door neighbor is an elderly lady who lives all alone. She always comments on how sweet my dog is. So lately we've been talking about her getting a dog for companionship. Since Basil is so laid back, I was thinking that it might be a perfect fit." "Wow, that is great, Tad. Have her give me a call. We can set up a meet and greet." "Sure thing. I will call Mrs. Creighton right now." Not much later, the front bells jingle jangle, and she's here to meet me. I sniff her out. She doesn't seem to have much confidence. My gut is telling me this is a bad idea. But if Hannah and Tad think it's a good fit, then I trust them. I might just be feeling a little out of sync because Jolie isn't around. After some chit-chat, Hannah asks, Mrs. Creighton, have you ever owned a dog before? Why, yes, I used to have a wonderful golden retriever named Gus. It's been such a long time since he passed. I always wanted another dog, but just never got around to doing anything until Tad suggested I meet Basil. Hearing her say that she's owned a dog before makes me feel a little better about her. Tad has offered to bring Basil to his house for play dates with his dog. I think that would be really good for Basil to have a friend right next door. I agree, says Hannah. Mrs. Creighton, would you like to take Basil home for the night and see how it goes? I normally make a home visit, but Tad recommends you highly. Why, yes, I do believe I am ready, says Mrs. Creighton. Hannah takes a brand new harness from its package and fits it to me before hooking on my leash. Hello, Campy. Are you coming up? There it goes. Hello, Campy. How are you? Mrs. Creighton, I'm sending you home with a harness that I want you to use every time you take Basil for a walk. That way you have more control over him than if you were to just use a leash. Watch how I attach it to Basil. Mrs. Creighton watches Hannah. I, of course, stand there like a good boy. Now let's have you take the harness off, put it back on so you remember how to use it when you're home. Mrs. Creighton gets it wrong the first time, and Hannah gently corrects her. Again, I sense Mrs. Creighton's lack of confidence. But this time she gets it right, and I am ready for a walk. The three of us walk out the front door and take a stroll up and down the street in front of Hannah's haven. Hannah tells her, it's important to remember that you are in control. Basil is as sweet as can be, but he's still a dog, and dogs can get excited when they see another dog or when they see a cat or a squirrel. But if you stay aware of your surroundings at all times, you can avoid most problems. Mrs. Creighton says, Tad tells me how gentle Basil is, and that's what made me want to meet him. I could see that Tad is right. After a short walk, we circle back. Knowing that I'll be leaving makes me sad, and Hannah notices it by how my head is hanging a little lower than normal. Oh, Basil, it's all right. Mrs. Creighton is going to take good care of you. You're going to be loved even more than you can imagine. She's right. I can't imagine being loved more than Jolie loves me. And I don't even get to say goodbye. Hannah walks out to Mrs. Creighton's car with us. I jump into the back seat and wait patiently while they say their goodbyes. Hannah reminds Mrs. Creighton, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me. And remember, if for any reason it doesn't work out, I promise to take Basil back. Mrs. Creighton answers, oh, I'm sure we'll be just fine. As Mrs. Creighton drives us to her house, I poke my nose out of the window that she's lowered a few inches. There are so many scents that it's almost overwhelming. I just love being able to sniff the fresh air as we pass by people, cars, buses, restaurants, and even squirrels. We arrive at my new home. Mrs. Creighton unhooks my leash and harness once we're in the house. I look around and I like everything about it so far. Mrs. Creighton places a small folded blanket on the floor in the living room. It's right next to her reclining chair. I assume that's where she wants me to lie down. She sits in her chair and puts the news on TV. There's a knock on the front door. It's Tad. Hi, Mrs. Creighton. I told you I would give you my extra dog bowl and some food to get you through until you can get to the pet store. So here it is. Tad kneels down to rub my back. It's sure nice to be around someone familiar. Well, Tad, that's awfully sweet of you. I really appreciate it. and I'll make it the trip to the pet store tomorrow, and I'll return your bowl by tomorrow night. No worries, Mrs. Creighton. Take as long as you need. How's it going? So far, so good. We're just relaxing. Basil's keeping me company while I watch the evening news. I just know you're going to love him. He's one of the sweetest and best behaved dogs I have ever met, and it will be good for Winston to have a playmate. We'll give Basil a few days before we bring him over to my yard. That way it won't be too stressful for him. Besides, he needs to get used to his new surroundings. Well, Tad, I sure appreciate all you have done to help me. Sure thing, Mrs. Creighton. Just call if you need anything else. Tad heads out the front door, closing it behind him. Mrs. Creighton says to me, Gee, Basil, it's already time for your walk. I think we should get a move on before it gets dark outside. Mrs. Creighton fumbles with my harness. She can't remember which section goes over my head and which strap fastens under my belly. I wish I could show her. In her frustration, she gives up. Instead, she attaches the leash to my collar. Oh, that's an interesting, this ear worked for the other one. If only you could just turn around that ear. All right. Oh, excuse me. I'm a little nervous that Mrs. Creighton didn't follow Hannah's instructions, but I tell myself that everything will be okay. I'm not as excitable as some of the dogs I know, like the dogs who jump up on their humans when they see a leash. We're the ones who run around in a circle so fast that their owners can't even clip the leash onto the collar. Mrs. Creighton asks, Are you ready, Basil? I perk up my ears and look her in the eyes as a sign that I am ready to go for a walk. Since this is our first walk, we're just going to go up and down the street. Tomorrow morning, I'll take you around the whole block. She unlocks the front door and we step out onto the porch. She turns and shuts the door, locks it, then drops the key in her dress pocket. I don't have a lot of experience walking on a leash, so I do my best to figure out how fast or slow I need to go to accommodate her. I don't think I'm going very fast, but all of a sudden, I feel a jerk on my leash, enough to stop me on my tracks. I turn around. Mrs. Creighton is on the ground. She looks pretty upset. I don't know what to do. Hello, Ms. M. Oh my goodness, I'm hurt. Basil, you're a bad dog. I hang my head. What did I do? Mrs. Creighton yells, Help! Please! Someone help me! Luckily, Tad hears her and comes running toward us. Mrs. Creighton, I looked out my front window and saw you fall down. Are you okay? What happened? Here, let me help you up. Look, my knee is bleeding. Oh, and I've scraped my wrist too. He was walking so very fast and I couldn't keep up. I'm afraid this just isn't the dog for me. Here, give me the leash. Now hold on my arm and let me help you up. We'll get you back home and I'll take care of your knee and your wrist. Do you hurt anywhere else? No, I think I'm really just scared more than anything else. I'm so grateful you came to help me. I'm glad I was nearby. Okay, let's take it slowly and get you inside. The three of us walk back into her house. I avoid eye contact with Mrs. Creighton. With my head hung low and my tail tucked between my legs, I walk over to the blanket and curl up. My instincts were right. This is not going to be my forever home. Tad cleans up her scrapes. Mrs. Creighton confesses, I didn't use the harness like Hannah showed me. But what difference could it make? Tad listens patiently and reassures her that a harness will give her better control. I don't want to discuss it anymore, Mrs. Creighton states firmly. She's not willing to give me a second chance. They decide that I'll spend the night at Tad's and he'll bring me to Hannah's Haven in the morning. Part of me is very sad. The other part is relieved. A dog needs the right owner. The person I dream of wakes up every morning excited about having me in their life. They will love me and take care of me. And I promise to love them and take care of them too. So give me like a 2-minute break, and I'm going to go get another, hopefully Diet Mountain Dew if there's any left. All right, I guess, oh, there's that little popcorn. So are you keeping me company here, Canvey? I have a Canvey here just sitting down with me. Ah, thank you, Cat B. All right. Chapter 22. Good to her word, Hannah takes me back, and she's happy to see me. I spent the whole night worried and feeling rejected, but Hannah's joy lifts my mood. Tad explains. Mrs. Creighton decides she was too old to have a large dog. She hadn't used the harness when she walked Basil. Basil didn't do anything wrong. He was as gentle and sweet as he always is. It's just too bad it wasn't a better fit. I guess it was my fault. I'm the one who thought they would be perfect together. Now, Tad, don't go blaming yourself. I've been through enough of these situations to know that even under the best of circumstances, there still could be surprises. Sure, I'm disappointed for Basil, but I trust that the universe is working on something even better for him. You'll see. Thanks, Hannah. I hope you're right. Tad reaches down and rubs my ear. I hope she's right, too. Hannah senses I could use some attention, and she lets me hang out with her in her office. The door is closed, but I could still see the parade of dogs showing up for daycare. I wonder who's here. Hannah calls Colin from her cell phone. Hi, honey. Guess what? Tad just bought Basil back. I guess it's time for me to put that ad on Pet Finder. Keep your fingers crossed that someone awesome is looking for a dog just like Basil. Well, not just like Basil, but Basil. Chapter 23. It's July 1st. Hannah's been fostering me for 10 weeks. I'm praying my luck improves soon. After Hannah posts the ad on PetFinder.com, a nice couple named Mason and Stella show up to meet me. I learn a lot about them by listening through the door in Hannah's office as the three of them talk in the lobby. They tell Hannah that Mason is currently undergoing treatment for cancer. Stella is a nurse. Hello, Catsway. Stella says, we've had a dog that was our treasured family pet for 12 years until it passed away about 3 months ago. Ever since, Mason has been battling depression. He's been in bed when I leave for work in the morning, and when I get home after a 12-hour shift, he's still in bed. I saw the Pet Finder ad, and Mason and I talked about getting another dog. He agreed that he was ready to open his heart again. I just had him at the camera, Catsway. Did you see that? Since we live across the street from a large park, anytime our new dog needs to go for a walk, it will also get Mason out of the house. Hannah replies, well, I had hoped you would have a fenced-in yard, but this sounds like it might be a good fit. I can't believe my ears. This sounds too good to be true. How lucky would I be if I could be their dog? All I could think is I hope they like me. The door to the office opens and Hannah announces, Basil, I have some people I'd like you to meet. Basil, this is Mason and Stella. Mason and Stella, meet Basil. I wait ever so patiently as they walk all the way across the room and sit on the couch. After they sit down, I put my head on Mason's lap, staring up at him with my big brown eyes. Of course his hand lands on my head. What a sweetie. He is so gentle, says Mason. Stella adds, and he's so well behaved. He didn't even jump up. Is he always this calm? Hannah and the two of them talk about me a whole lot. Suddenly, I feel like a rock star. Hannah shares my entire history, how I was surrendered to Jolie, how I've been fostered by Hannah for almost 3 months, how Creighton brought me back, Mrs. Creighton brought me back after less than 24 hours because she was intimidated by my size. Hannah assures them that I'm one of the best dogs she has had the pleasure to rescue. She also tells them how good I am with Ivy. Mason and Stella have grandkids, and they're excited to hear that I'm good with children. That's a real plus to have on one's resume. Hannah says, Basil's been in rescue mode for several months now. He needs a forever home more than ever. It can have a negative effect if it isn't a good fit and he's brought back again. I don't know if he can take the disappointment. So how about if we set up a good time for you both for a home visit? I'll bring Basil to your house so that I can evaluate if it's a good fit. It's part of the normal adoption process I go through with potential new owners for every dog I rescue. Everyone agrees it's a great idea, even me. Oh, I'm actually just cheating a little bit. Hello, Canvy. Are you my companion today? I got Canvy up here with me. She's just sleeping away. She's got her ears back listening to me. Probably thinking of Basil and maybe thinking of her buddy Janie. I know you miss your girl Janie. I know. Alright, chapter 24. Bright and early the next morning, Hannah calls out, Come on, Basil! We're going to check out Mason and Stella's house. This time I can't contain myself. I jump up and slurp Hannah's face. Oh, Basil, I don't want us to get our hopes up too high and possibly get disappointed. But I do have a really good feeling about them. My instincts tell me they need you as much as you need them. What could be better, eh, boy? Hannah attaches my leash, and off we go. Mason and Stella live in a lovely, sprawling brick ranch house. The front walkway is lined with perky blue and yellow pansies. Mason is in the living room looking out of their big bay window when he sees us pull up in the driveway. He answers the door before Hannah even has a chance to ring the bell. Welcome! Come on in! Hey there, Basil! Wow, the inside of their house smells sweet. What a lovely home you have here, says Hannah. How long have you lived here? We've been in this house going on 30 years. We raised our daughter here. It's a wonderful neighborhood, and there's a beautiful park across the street that we've enjoyed, Mason replies. Thank you, Casey. We're glad that you're here. Stella walks into the living room with a big smile on her face, holding a plate of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. Hi there. Welcome to our house. Thank you so much for coming out. Can I offer you a cookie? Hi, Stella. It's good to see you again. I was just telling Mason that you have a lovely home. Why, yes, I would love a cookie. Thank you, says Hannah. Mason asks, would you like a tour? It's not real big, but it holds a lot of love. And we hope you think it's suitable for Basil. Hannah and I walk through the rooms as the three of them chat. In each room, I imagine myself living with them, where I will be fed, where we will all watch TV together. When we get to the bedroom, Mason says, our last dog slept on the bed with us. We would, of course, let Basil sleep with us if he wants to. Oh my gosh, seriously? I hear this and jump up on the bed just to make sure they know I approve. Everyone laughs. As we mentioned, we don't have a fenced yard, but I could give Basil long walks in the park. Would you like to see it? Sure, Hannah replies. She hands Mason my leash, and off we go. I've heard about dogs that assist humans. They are very special. They are called service dogs, and they even wear special clothing. Right then and there, I decide I'm going to assist Mason. I will be his own personal angel and assist him any way I can for as long as I live. This feels so right. Returning from our walk, Hannah says, it looks like the three of you would make a great fit. This makes me very happy. How about if I leave the adoption forms with you and you bring them to me tomorrow at work? I usually charge a $100 adoption fee when I place a rescue in order to cover my expenses. I took care of Basil for almost 3 months before you answered my ad, but since you're dealing with cancer, Mason, I am happy to forego the adoption fee. Think of Basil as my gift to you. Oh, Hannah, we are so thrilled. We will take excellent care of Basil. Thank you, says Mason. I know you will. Why don't you go ahead and make an appointment with your vet? That way you can bring me the forms, pick up Basil, and go straight to your vet for an initial intake appointment. Just give me a call when you're on your way. You know what? I just realized you've been living without a dog for 3 months, and that's how long Basil's been without a home. I think that this is meant to be. That is so great. Tomorrow I'm going to be a member of Team Mason. Chapter 25. I wake up with so much excitement in my body that I feel like dancing. Jolie arrives and gives me a super huge hug. Oh, Basil, I'm so happy to see you. She lovingly puts her hands on my face and then looks into my eyes and says, I was so worried that you wouldn't be here when I got back from vacation. I guess that's a mixed blessing because we really need to find you a forever home, don't we? Leanne appears, still in her pajamas. Hey, Jolie. Welcome back. How was your vacation? It was wonderful. I got to spend a lot of time with my family. I have to admit, though, I had Basil on my mind the whole time I was gone. I guess I'm more attached to him than I realized. How are things here, she asks. Leanne tells Jolie, Hannah finally placed an ad to find Basil a good home. And she took Basil for a home visit. Everything went great, and he's going to his new home today. Hannah steps out of her office, her face creased in pain. Something terrible happened. What? Leanne and Jolie ask in unison. You know Trish and Marina who used to own Basil? Trish saw the ad for Basil in Pet Finder, and she called me crying. Trish and Victor are back together, and she and Marina moved back into Victor's home. Marina has been unbelievably distraught ever since she found out about her mother surrendering Basil. Marina cries herself to sleep every night and insists she can't live without him. Trish even offered me money for him. You didn't, Leanne starts. Hannah shakes her head. Trish kept begging me, saying what a special dog Basil is, how she should have never let Jolie take him. What? Jolie says angrily. Trish was going to take Basil to the Humane Association because he kept escaping. I only offered to find him a good home because she was so desperate and Victor insisted. So what did you say? What could I say? I told her I was very sorry, but Basil had already been adopted. Wow. Thanks, Hannah. I'm glad you found him the perfect home. He's going to have the life he deserves. Tears well up in Jolie's eyes. Did you hear that, Basil? Today's your adoption day. I guess these tears mean I'm having a gratitude attack. I feel so sad that you're leaving, buddy, but I'm also happy just knowing that you're going to live happily ever after. Emotions can be complicated, especially when you feel two different ways. I'm going to miss Jolie, too. As he promised Hannah, Mason does what every respectable pet owner does. He takes me to the vet for an exam. It includes some routine vaccines and lab tests. Some dogs become afraid the minute they walk into a veterinary office, but not me. I think veterinarians are some of the most special people in the world. They know how much and only want the best for they know so much that they only want what's best for us critters. And unlike when a human goes to a doctor and explains what ails them, veterinarians have to piece together the clues our humans tell them about us in order to help us heal. Sometimes that includes needles and uncomfortable tests. The vet tech enters the examination room with shots and an empty vial. A small portion of the fur on my front leg is shaved, and they withdraw some of my blood. Not very much, just enough to fill the small vial. I don't even whimper. The vet tech scratches my head, saying, "You're a very good dog." And then she leaves the room. I behave like a champ, making Mason proud of me. Mason's first dog had been Dr. Friedman's patient. They chit-chat about stuff, how Mason and Stella are doing, the crazy weather they've been having, and who the Titans are going to get to replace their running back, whatever that means. I don't mind hanging out in the exam room because, after all, I'm by Mason's side. He lovingly pets me the whole time they talk. Dr. Friedman leaves the room to see if my test results are ready. He steps back a few minutes later, holding a piece of paper that he places in my chart. Basil seems like a relatively healthy dog, except his test for heartworms came up positive. Unfortunately, we don't know how long he's had them, but since he's young, the prognosis is good. Mason has a concerned look on his face. Heartworms? Dr. Friedman explains, heartworms are worms that live in a dog's heart. They are transmitted by mosquitoes. If a mosquito that's transmitting heartworm bites a dog, it leaves heartworm larvae that quickly enters into the hole the mosquito made. It then begins to mature in the dog's body. If they're going through several different phases, it ultimately gets into the animal's circulation and goes to the heart, where they do their final maturation. As heartworms develop, the heart reacts and becomes less efficient. If we have a young patient with a high worm load, that's not had the problem very long, we do the treatment in one fell swoop. 2 shots given 24 hours apart. If they're sicker, older, or have more problems, where they might be more severely compromised by the whole scope of treatment, then we can separate this treatment and do 1 shot, get a partial kill on the heartworms. Some will live, some will die, and then come back in a month or 2 and do the 2 shots. All 3 of us listened intently. Part of the complication of heartworm treatment is that these worms don't just vanish. The good news is, if we do the 2-stage treatment of 1 shot and then 2 shots, there aren't as many worms arriving in the lung tissue. The body can probably get rid of them even a little bit more safely and efficiently. Oh, you're welcome, Catsway. Mason and Stella each breathe a sigh of relief. Dr. Friedman continues. I'm guessing that Basil's around 3 or 4 years old, so in his case, not knowing how long he's had heartworms, I highly recommend the 2-stage treatment of 1 shot and then 2 shots. Mason and Stella look at each other, and then Mason looks back at Dr. Friedman. I think Stella and I should go home and talk about it. Can we get back to you? Of course, I wouldn't wait too long, but I'm sure a few days or so won't make much of a difference. On the drive home, Mason keeps the car window down. I catch the wind in my cheeks. Yeah, cutie popcorn. Yeah, I don't see her in the. Somebody's over here having a good time. All right. Thank you, Vanessa. And we're up. We're about maybe 15 more minutes, and then we'll be done. I believe Barbara's going home. I haven't seen her in about half an hour. We return home and Mason calls Hannah. As the 2 of us sit on the couch of the sunroom, Mason gently strokes my head while he shares the gloomy news. Hi, Hannah. It's Mason. Is this a good time to talk? Sure, Mason. You sound a little down. Is something wrong? Well, yes. We took Basil to the vet this morning and discovered he has heartworms. Our vet said it's treatable, but it's a lot for Basil to go through until he's back in good health. I thought you'd like to know. It's really taken us by surprise. Gee, I'm so sorry to hear this. Believe it or not, I never had to deal with heartworms before. I heard the medicine is pretty hard on a dog's system, not to mention how expensive it is. A good friend of mine knows all about holistic medicine. How about if I reach out to her to see what would be involved to treat Basil holistically? I'm sure it would cost way less than conventional treatment. I'll do some research on my end and I'll call you back in a couple of days. How does that sound? Are you still interested in keeping Basil? Because I will gladly take him back if you feel this is more than you want to deal with. No worries, he's a member of our family now. We just weren't expecting this, especially since the treatment could cost over $500. Oh, I understand. Let me see what I can find out, and I will give you a call once I know more. I'm pretty sure that treating him holistically will cost less. Okay, thanks, Hannah. We look forward to hearing from you. Mason puts down his phone and looks directly into my eyes. Basil, I know how it feels to be sick. Your health is super important to us. We'll do whatever it takes to help you get well. You can count on that. He leans over, wraps his arms around me, and gives me a long hug. Is that a tear I feel? Jolie is working the front desk and overhears bits and pieces of Hannah and Mason's conversation. Jolie asks, is Mason calling with bad news? I'm afraid so, Hannah. Apparently, says Hannah, apparently Basil has heartworms. It's never good when a dog has heartworms. It really frustrates me because they're preventable with a monthly pill. Poor guy. I'm not surprised that he has them, considering the way his previous owners treated him. I know, replies Hannah. I told Mason I'd do some research about treating heartworms with holistic medicine. It's a lot less taxing on the dog's body. I know some people I can call who have used it. Hannah, would you mind if I call Mason? I'd like him to know how much I care, so he feels supported. Sure, no problem. I will text you his number. That night when Jolie and her husband Harlan sit down to dinner, she tells them the bad news about Basil. I've been upset so day. The worst part is that Hannah suggested treating Basil through holistic medicine. I'm a big believer in treating certain things holistically, but I don't like this idea of using it as the only protocol to treat something as dangerous as heartworms. Homeopathy is a great way to support the immune system alongside conventional treatment. I really do believe that veterinary medicine is the safest way to treat something as serious as this. Have you talked to Mason? Asks Harlan. No, not yet. I'm too upset, so I thought I'd call him tomorrow when I'm less freaked out, Jolie replies. I've got a great idea. You know how I've been saving all the washers and dryers and refrigerators from when we made upgrades in our rental properties? I have a whole garage full that we could clean up and sell on Craigslist. We could earmark every penny to go to Basil's treatment. I'm sure we could easily raise at least $400, maybe $500. Then it won't be such a financial burden on Mason and Stella. Hi, Gail. Plus, if Basil goes to our vet, he'll be given the best possible care, and it won't cost as much as other veterinarians. What do you think? Wow, that is so brilliant. I bet Mason will go for it. Why wouldn't he? Harlan asks, why don't you call Mason after dinner? I'm sure he'd love to hear some good news. I will. Later that night, after Mason and Jolie speak, he shares his excitement with Stella. That was Jolie. She wanted to tell me her thoughts on the importance of having Basil treated by a vet instead of only with homeopathic remedies because of the seriousness of the condition. Everything she said makes sense, and now I understand it better. I agree. Mason continues talking to Stella, tears welling up in his eyes. His voice is choked up. Jolie and her husband have offered to pay for the full treatment if we take Basil to their vet. They've been clients there for over 20 years, and they completely trust their vet's judgment. Admittedly, it's a longer drive for us, but I feel confident that Basil will be in good hands. I'm so touched by their generous offer. What do you think? Getting up from her favorite overstuffed chair, Stella gives Mason a big hug. Sweetheart, don't you worry. We will do whatever it takes to get Basil healthy. Then I got a hug from Stella, too. Alrighty. The very first thing the next morning, Mason calls Dr. Triggs at Grass Valley Animal Hospital. After finishing his phone consultation, Mason explains everything to Stella. That was a long conversation. What did he say? Is everything okay? Said Stella. Yes, I believe it's all going to be okay, replies Mason. Dr. Driggs agreed with Dr. Friedman's recommendation of doing the two-stage treatment. She explained that before we can begin the actual treatment, Basil needs to be on antibiotics for a month. Apparently, there's a little germ that lives inside the heartworms. The antibiotic will kill it, and by doing that, it weakens the heartworms so that the heartworm treatment can work even better because the germ inside the worm is dead. Since Stella isn't there, she quickly understands, nodding. Go on. She says, go on. After Basil finishes taking the antibiotic for 30 days, we'll bring him for this first shot. We'll need to keep Basil calm to prevent a big wad of half-dead worms from breaking off and entering his circulation. If a big clump of heartworms did lodge in an artery or a vein somewhere, it could cut off his circulation. And the most common place they would do that, Mason pauses and takes a deep breath before continuing, would be his lungs. Dr. Trigg said the only times they've really had any problem is when dog owners don't restrict their dog's activity. We'll make sure we do exactly what Dr. Trigg tells us, says Stella. The good news is, it doesn't appear that he doesn't have to be boarded, and he'll be treated entirely as an outpatient. He doesn't ever have to spend one night away from us. Dr. Driggs says they like to see the dogs they've treated again around 3 months after the initial treatment. She'll listen to Basil's heart and lungs, check out his weight, and make sure he's doing okay. And by giving Basil heartworm prevention tablets every month, we'll be protecting him because it kills any baby heartworms. I met Dr. Triggs I'll meet Dr. Triggs when I pick up the antibiotic. Then, while looking at me, Mason says, we're in this together, pal, and you're getting the best care possible. All you have to do is stay calm and we'll do the rest. My tail wagging gives Mason and Stella a sign that I understand. I feel the love in the room. Let me see what we have here. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to stop here, and we will finish this next week. So we're ending it where they've agreed that Basil is going to get the treatment for the heartworm. They're not going to go for the homeopathic treatment. They're going to go for the actual treatment. And Basil will be on antibiotics for 30 days, and then he's going to have to be restricted. So, all right, so that's it for today. I am going to get running here. Thank you, Cat B. Thank you, Danish. I hope everybody's got a good day, and we will finish this next week, and I will have more books. Oh, thank you, Stacy. I enjoy doing it. And thank you, Tina. Thank you, Catsway. Thank you, Ms. M. Thank you, Vanessa. Oh! We got up here on the catwalk, we have a couple of kittens up here. Popcorn's up there. Bye, everybody.